Hello and welcome to another World Service number 6 for 2021. My name is Jeff Boyce. We've had an exceptional NAIDOC week last week. I thought, from my view, things are looking a lot better in terms of us understanding the implications of our Indigenous past and the rights of Aboriginal people. I came across this photo of a gorgeous sunset in North Queensland, which struck me because it has the Aboriginal colours of the flag, the Aboriginal flag within it. And I thought I might share it with you, and I hope you enjoy the image. This week I went and visited some international social work students in the city and to share our cultures and just have a conversation. And I met a Nepalese student who showed me a picture on his phone about how in Nepal they are coping with COVID-19. In fact, the hotels have opened themselves up to give free meals to people who are disadvantaged. And I thought this is a sign of a different culture, a different understanding of hospitality and generosity to that which we tend to share in the West, which is more concerned with business and making profit. I thought that with COVID on the rise again, with this new strain, and the film review that Steve Parker has done of an excellent film and an excellent review by Steve, that we might consider the theme of this service as facing our dragons. So I hope you enjoy this World Service and facing your dragons, and we'll see you next time. And don't forget, you can always send us anything you want to the website, and we may include it in the next World Service. Film reviews or books you're reading or ideas you've had or things you've seen on Facebook or wherever. I'm always interested in catching up and putting things on for the benefit of people who are looking for some inspiration and encouragement during this time. Enjoy. Well, good day, Steve. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Jack. How are you?
Oh, good. Yes, I'm looking forward to this one.
Excellent.
So what have we got, Steve?
Well, today we've got a beautiful movie, I think, called Rosa's Wedding. It was released in 2020, but it's taken a little while to get to our cinemas, of course. And Rosa's Wedding is about a 45-year-old woman. She's about to turn 45. And she's one of these people who is constantly doing things for other people. So she works in a costume shop and does sewing, and she wants to start up her own business. Everybody calls on her, workmates, family, friends, and she's just become known as a person who is generous with her time and energy. And so she decides that she's going to leave all this behind and try to find herself and fulfill her dreams. Rosa's wedding refers to the fact that she is going to go off for a short time to a little beach village, and she's going to have a wedding, and she's going to marry herself.
Wow.
And that causes an incredible amount of consternation and anger and all sorts of things in this little community of family and friends and workmates.
Yeah, what a lovely metaphor, though, marrying yourself, which is that sort of metaphor of looking after and loving yourself,
yes.
Isn't it?
Well, maybe we can have a bit more of a talk about that after we've had a bit of a look at the trailer. What do you think?
That's a good idea.
Excellent.
Okay.
Hermanita, que esta noche tampoco llego con los nanos. A ver, por favor, ¿les das tú la cena?
Venga, Rosita, venga, mira, ya está. Yo le pego un telefonazo, pero pásate tú por el piso, y controla que lo haga bien.
Nada, solo recordarte que tu padre tiene análisis esta semana con nosotros.
¡Vamos, Raúl! ¡Vamos!
Que es por lo de papá, mi amor, que a mí me viene fatal.
Venga, no te pares.
Venga, Rosita, venga.
Papi, ¿qué haces aquí?
He pensado que me vengo aquí.
¿Cómo? Que estoy cansada de muchas cosas. Sí, estoy pensando en abrir el taller de mi madre. Quiero empezar una nueva vida. Ahora es mi momento. Hay veces que hay que dar al botón nuclear y empezar de cero.
¿Pero de qué botón nuclear me estás hablando, mamá?
¿Pero qué es esto de que te casas?
Hija, que me ha dicho Violeta que te casas.
¿Que se casa Rosa?
No te preocupes por nada. Está todo organizado. Y date prisa que nos están esperando en el spa.
¿Qué spa?
Bueno, y nos tomamos el convite.
¿Qué convite?
¿Cómo se te ocurre llamar a toda la familia de Pamplona?
Joder, que os lo dije que quería hacer algo íntimo.
Pero soy yo el único que se toma en serio esta boda.
Por favor, es que no me caso con nadie. Que no hay marido, que me caso yo sola.
Rollo Me Too.
Estás de coña.
Pues que parece que mi madre se ha vuelto loca.
Ahora no la podemos dejar sola, con el lío que hemos montado.
Es que no entiendo nada.
Bueno, ¿qué faltaba? Papá. A mí me va a dar un ictus.
Cásate.
Bueno, ahí vamos, de boda. Y que sea lo que Dios quiera.
Es que si no lo haces hoy, no lo vas a hacer nunca.
So, Jeff, just before the trailer, you were talking about this being a metaphor.
Yes, something I've never thought about that metaphor. Not that I'm special, but it's very strong and immediately understandable that when you marry somebody, love is such that you care for the other person.
Yes.
So the metaphor, in fact, not forces you, but pushes you in the direction of, if I'm married to myself, then I have to look after myself.
Yes. Yes. Care for yourself, nurture yourself.
Yes.
And someone, you just mentioned the fact that you weren't special. This movie's been made for you, possibly. No. Well, in some ways that's true, because we don't often see ourselves as special, or we see ourselves as an ideal. I think this is an ideal that's often pressed on us, is that we need to be other focused and we need to sacrifice ourselves often for other people, and this is true love in a way. And I suppose there is a sense where that may be the case. You know, there may be times when people freely choose to sacrifice themselves for others. You know, I can imagine, for example, parents and children. If you might literally sacrifice yourself for your children on some occasions. But I think the main point of the movie really is that you can't actually care for other people unless you have loved yourself, cared for yourself, nurtured yourself. You're satisfied with you've got dreams and you want to meet those dreams and fulfill them. And really, you can't be an authentic person until you've done this.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, you're doing damage to yourself, which creates a problem for helping others.
Yeah.
And as a friend of mine used to say to me, in the airline thing where they say if there's turbulence or something, a bag will drop down from behind. Put it on your own first before you help your kids.
Right.
You have to look after yourself, otherwise you're incapable of really helping somebody else.
That's right.
Yeah.
And there might be times when we cannot help somebody else for some reason. I don't want to make this film sound too serious, because it's actually a comedy drama, I'd say. It is very light-hearted. I had some good laughs through it, and so it's even though it's very amusing and fast-paced and light, it has got this deep theme in there, which I think often we know that humour is often a better way to get something across to us. I mean, there's a very clear message in the film.
Yes.
And because she has to try and explain what she's doing to other people who cannot get their heads around it, this whole thing, and the shock when they discover that she's marrying herself and not having a traditional marriage, and they have to examine their own lives to, well, how, what is it that I'm doing in terms of just not taking responsibility for what I'm responsible for, and I'm passing it on to somebody else who is so habitually generous, you know.
Yes, yes.
The unfairness of that comes out a lot too, you know.
Yes.
So I think it's a marvellous movie.
Well, it sounds to me, Steve, that it sounds like a corrective to that almost guilt-driven propensity of particularly religious folk to downgrade their own selves for the sake of others. And it's a corrective also to our world service, where we are focusing on those areas of kindness and compassion and helping others, that unless we look after ourselves, then we are less likely to be effective in doing that.
Indeed, yes. I mean, in conversations we've had about the world service and its purpose, you've often mentioned the fact that it's about providing tools and things to nurture oneself, you know, to heal oneself and so on. So I think this actually fits very much with the idea. I mean, the question that I think we're left with at the end of this movie is two questions, but there's two sort of sides to the coin. One is, am I sacrificing myself to such an extent, you know, to help others and to give and be generous to the extent that I'm actually damaging myself and my mental health, my well-being, and making myself ineffective, and losing my own integrity and authenticity? That's one question. But the other question I think that possibly some of us could answer is, am I using somebody else in that way? Am I one of these people that expect other people to do it for me? And am I burdening other people with this expectation? It's when something becomes a totalising idea, and we say, oh, that person is really generous, or that person gives so much of themselves, or that person does things for other people. It's sort of like a totalising thing potentially.
Yes.
And there's got to be room to not give it sometimes, and not sacrifice or whatever, you know.
It's the totalising, isn't it?
That's
it's
right.
The key.
It's the
key to it. So it's this tricky balancing act between generosity, but also being generous to ourselves as well as to others. So both and world we live in.
And the beauty of this movie, it does it in such a light-hearted, joyous way, actually. I felt very uplifted at the end of the movie. Challenged, but also uplifted. So it's not a downer of a movie. It's just it's a celebration of life and the fact that we all are responsible for living our lives, and we need to look after ourselves first if we're going to effectively live that life. I highly recommend this movie. I thought it was great. And I should just mention that in Australia, it's going to be released on July the 22nd in cinemas where cinemas are open. I don't know that it'll be on mainstream cinemas, but more like Palace Nova cinemas, or more independent cinemas, perhaps. So I recommend it. Keep an eye out for it, and if you can find it, and I'm sure it will come on the streaming services at some point.
Good-o. Thank you so much again, Steve.
Thank you.
And we wish you well with your film viewing.
Indeed. And can I also say, perhaps, that feel free to leave us a comment on the web if you want to, about the movie, or you might even have movies in mind that you'd like us to chat about.
Yes, that'll be good.
We'd be happy to look at that, or suggestions for us to look at even.
Yeah. Or good movies you've seen and you want to write a little review, or send us a little video or something, we can throw it up on the world service.
Indeed, absolutely. So you'll find contact details on the website.
Beautiful.
Lovely. See you next time.
Okay. See you, Steve.
Bye for now.
Bye.
I was climbing a mountain, asleep in the moonlight, The ghost of my grandpa came to me in a dream. As the stars hung above us, he started singing this chorus. He laughed loud as heaven and said this to me: take a few chances, a few worthy romances, go swimming in the ocean on New Year's Day. Don't listen to the critics, stand up and bear witness, go slay all the dragons that stand in your way. We stayed up and talked till the sunrise, war and love and sorrow. He said stop spending all your money on forgiveness of sins. Today is all you promised, don't trouble with tomorrow. He faded into the forest, proudly singing this hymn. Take a few chances, a few worthy romances, go swimming in the ocean on New Year's Day. Don't listen to the critics, stand up and bear witness, go slay all the dragons that stand in your way. Woke up with a fever, surrounded by lightning. All my windows were open and I let the rain flood in. The past felt like the present, the future uncertain. I sang like a sparrow lost in the wind. Take a few chances, few worthy romances, go swimming in the ocean on New Year's Day. Don't listen to the critics, stand up and bear witness, go slay all the dragons that stand in your way. Go slay all the dragons that stand in your way. Go slay all the dragons that stand in your way.
So the first thing I would say is that if you feel insecure and less and ashamed and all of that, that you have to take stock. And look, I have an exercise online at selfauthoring.com. There's 3 exercises there. One helps you write about the past, one about the present, and one about the future. The present authoring program helps you assess your faults and your virtues. Okay, well, if you have some faults and you feel insecure and inferior because of that, well, you should. Now, it shouldn't be so much that you're crippled by it and unable to take action. You shouldn't be beating yourself into the ground because you're not everything you could be, because no one is. And if you beat yourself into the ground, then you can't get up and improve. But you have to differentiate. It's like, okay, to what degree am I being hard on myself? Counterproductively critical, hearing the voice of my too harsh and angry father in my head, right. Adopting inappropriate stereotypical representations of masculine competence. How much of my self-criticism is ill-advised? Fair enough. And you want to deal with yourself with a certain amount of care. But then along with that, there's the, well, fix your weaknesses. You know, if you're ashamed of being ignorant, you're showing up at a party because you claim to knowledge that you don't have and someone exposes you. Well, you can be angry at them, and you probably will, but they've actually done you a favor. They pointed out an inadequacy is a pathway that you can travel down, right? A recognized inadequacy is, it's such a gift in some sense, if it's accurate. Because you think, well, what should I do? What should I do with my life? That's a real complicated question. Oh, here's an inadequacy. Excellent, you have a goal now. Rectify it. Now, you still have to think strategically and figure out how to rectify it and do it step by step. But Carl Rogers, the psychotherapist, pointed out that the person, for therapy to be successful, the person has to want to change. So they have to have recognized that they have a problem. If someone is mandated by the court to attend therapy, it's very difficult for the therapist to convince them that they have a problem. Once you're convinced you have a problem, it's like, away you go. I know it's still technically difficult. It requires discipline and all of that. There's no magic solution, but if you're plagued by feelings of inferiority, you should rectify the most obvious inferiorities.
Right. Focus on those first over optimizing strengths, would you say?
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. And you don't have to redress I'm a terrible jazz musician.
Right.
It's
not a thing where you hold shame around or like.
Well, it's not an impediment.
Yeah.
I would say that you have to rectify an inadequacy when it's clearly an impediment to your goal, or you have to shift goals. But if you're shifting goals because of an inadequacy related impediment, then you have to ask yourself, is your desire to shift the goal reliable, or are you just taking the easy way out? Right. You can protect yourself by picking a different goal that's more difficult. That's a good mental hygiene practice, because sometimes you should switch goals rather than rectifying inadequacies. But you can fool yourself then, and that's not good.
And if someone is goalless, lazy, unmotivated, not sure what they want to do, what would be a few key steps to get started to turn their life around or to find the motivation for something greater than where they're at?
Well, I think a fair bit of that's probably to be found you can find it in shame. You can find it in guilt. You can find it in conscience. You can find it in anger. You can find it in interest and engagement and beauty. There's lots of pathways. If you're angry about something in the world, well, that's an indication that's in some sense your problem, right? It's speaking to you in a moral sense. This shouldn't be that way. Well, maybe you're the person who should do something about it in some manner. Maybe it'll take your whole life to figure out how to do that. But it's bothering you for a reason. So the negative emotions can be a pathway to transformation. I'm not trying to romanticize them. They can crush you completely and leave you with nothing, right? For sure. And they can go badly astray. But shame, that's a good one. What am I ashamed of? Well, can you fix any of that? Because you might ask yourself, let's say you're so ashamed and so crushed that you're nihilistic and you can't see any hope for life. You're just done. You might think, well, what if I was less ashamed? Like, I'm not going to jump off the bridge today. I'm going to wait a year. I'm going to work on these things that I'm ashamed of. And just see, like, does my life improve enough so that I'm not so bitter about it now, or I'm not so hopeless about it now? And my experience has generally been that works. It works. And then some of it's practical knowledge too. It's like you can get a really long way with very small changes, incremental changes, micro habit changes. So aim low.
Don't have big goals or big transformations.
Well, you can, but the problem with a big goal is that it's daunting enough so that it might paralyze you, and there's a high probability of failure. And so imagine that you're your own child. Okay, now imagine you love this child, and you would like him, we'll say him because it's you and I talking, to succeed. Now, you have an ideal for this child. You would like him to grow up to be the best he can be, better than you, the best man he can be. That's what you want for your son, if the good part of you is talking.
Yeah.
You definitely want him to be better than you are, but you want him to be the best he could be if your vision is unclouded. Okay, but then you offer him a goal. It's like, well, do this. Well, can he do it? Well, if he can do it without a second's thought, there's no challenge in it. There's no developmental impetus. It's not in the zone of proximal development. You want a goal that you can do, but that requires some improvement on your part. Because you want to attain the goal, that's satisfying, but then you want to make yourself into the thing that can attain goals.
That
and so you want to push yourself.
Yeah.
You want to push yourself a bit further.
Yeah.
Yes. And there's an ample psychological literature that suggests that that's where maximal motivation is to be found.
Interesting.
So you're pursuing a goal, but you're also pursuing the goal of transforming yourself at the same time. You're doing both of those at the same time.
Do you need to know that you're transforming yourself in order to attain the goal? Or do most people just think, I got to take these steps to make it happen, but they don't realize they're becoming better human beings?
It depends on what you mean by realize. They have the sense of satisfaction and confidence that would indicate that, although they might not be able to make what that means explicit. But I would say it would be better to make it explicit. It adds one other dimension of possible motivation.
What would you say would be your 3 truths?
I would say, have the faith, strive to manifest the faith necessary to make things better rather than worse. Pray that you have enough terror to be frightened out of your own deceit. And strive to be grateful regardless. That would be that's good enough.
Seeds of freedom, time has come. Seeds of freedom, life will overcome. Seeds of freedom, all we need is some. Seeds of freedom, life will overcome. Small seed, big tree, gardens of hope, everywhere just to share. Seeds of freedom, time has come. Seeds of freedom, life will overcome. Small seed, big tree, gardens of hope, wind blows, it goes from hand to hand. Seeds of freedom, time has come. Seeds of freedom, life will overcome. Little by little, almighty, it's time to fight insanity. No more suicides and cruelty. Let's get together, be ready. Be ready. Be ready. will overcome. Seeds of freedom, all we need is some. Seeds of freedom. Little by little, almighty, gardens of hope growing slowly. Last chance to save humanity. Be ready, be ready, be ready, be ready. Seeds of freedom, time has come.